Let's take a look at some of the current supply chain challenges that people are facing, coming right up. Okay, so what are some of the challenges that people face in supply chain? There's some new ones, there's some old ones, there's some that are getting a lot more attention these days. Let's get number one out of the way to begin with, tariffs. At the time of recording this video, the US are putting tariffs on all kinds of products around the world. We're yet still to see the impact of that. It's creating a lot of turmoil, a lot of job losses. People are looking for alternative markets other than the US. It's impacting sourcing. There's a bit of a schmozzle going on all over the place. If that's impacting you directly, I'd love to get your comments down below and hear what's happening and some of the things that you're doing to try and get through all of that. So that's going to be an ongoing challenge, I think, for certainly the rest of this year. Tariffs have been with us for a long time, of course, but the volume and the intensity of this is probably something we haven't seen before. Number two, it's an old one, but costs. People are really focusing on cost reduction at the moment. I'm basing these comments from my experience of working with hundreds of different companies around the world each year. And something surprised me this year. I've been getting out and talking to a lot of customers, lots of different industries, and what they're saying is business is flat. I haven't seen it quite this flat before. Obviously, I'm based in Australia. And even through COVID, we had some customer businesses who were going through the roof. Think for a moment, if you were doing gardening products or DIY products, everybody was stuck at home and they were going nuts. But there's always been the sort of peaks and troughs across the different industries. This is the first time, though, that almost regardless of the industry that I'm engaging with, they're saying that it's flat. By that, what I mean by that is sales are flat. Some are declining. Most are flat. I can't think of any off the top of my head that are increasing at the moment in terms of volume. So that's a real challenge. Why is that a big challenge as supply chain and logistics managers? Because we've got to really contain our costs. Whilst the sales and marketing team are really going gangbusters trying to improve growth, we've got to get the costs down as well. And what sort of things are people focusing on? It's fascinating working in a consulting business like Logistics Bureau, but we get to work with FMCG companies, retailers. We're doing a lot in heavy industry at the moment, in the coal sector, power generation, power distribution. And everybody is focusing on the same sorts of things, almost regardless of industry. So what are they? Inventory is a big one, almost regardless of industry. We had a couple of years ago where people were building stock because of supply uncertainty. That's still carried through to a degree. There's a lot of companies out there carrying way too much stock. They're trying to manage that down. What we're seeing now in many different industries is a lot of SLOBEX, slow, obsolete, and excess stock. Stuff that's probably not going to sell through. The challenge there is, what do you do with it? Different organisations have different sort of write-down approaches. Do you have a fire sale and try and get rid of it? Some of our clients can't do that because the products are obsolete. So that continues to be a challenge. And of course, what's the knock-on effect of having too much inventory? Your warehouses are clogged. I would think 40 or 50% of the companies that we've worked with over the last 12 months have capacity problems. Now you could sit there and say, well, isn't that normal, Rob? Because nobody carries a huge amount of excess warehouse capacity. True, but what we're seeing now is warehouses, real sort of full to bursting point, to the point where they're having to find extra space. They're having to relay warehouses, look at different storage media to try and fit stuff in, because they've got too much. And a lot of that is that SLOBEX, slow, obsolete, and excess stock. So what are some of the things that people are doing there? Well, they're really getting very focused on shifting that inventory in one way or another, trying to make those warehouses more efficient. They're doing things like narrowing aisles, trying to get more capacity into the same warehouse cube. They're looking at technology solutions. They're putting in mezzanines. Lots and lots of different ways to try and get more capacity out of the same warehouse space. And of course, what we had probably over the last 2 years here, particularly in Australia, was it was very hard to get warehouse space, and it was very expensive. That's eased a little bit. Space is a little bit more available now, but the cost is phenomenal. I mean, I'm seeing warehouse rental space probably, I mean, I'm going to pick a number out of the air here. It's probably double what it was 5 years ago. Do comment down below if you're seeing the same sort of thing. Are you seeing it, 50% up, 80% up, 90% up? And when you're trying to contain cost, that's kind of a double whammy. So, yeah, interesting. I might do a video on this actually with the guy I was talking to, but I was talking to a business development manager at a 3PL a couple of weeks ago, and he was looking at, I get lots of people reach out to me and say, do any of your customers, need warehouse space? It's like, I'm not the 3PL salesman here. I can't actively, promote specific 3PLs. I run a consulting company. But it was interesting, I gave the guy a few tips on how he might build his customer base and things like that. And out of curiosity, I said to him, what do you charge per pallet per week? And I was staggered. It was way below market. That got me thinking, is that sustainable? And then we had a discussion as to how can you do it for that price? And he had a few reasons. And it was a very interesting conversation. I ended up saying to him, as part of your marketing, you ought to say, what's that advert about butter? I can't believe it's not butter. I said, do an advert which says something like, our clients can't believe how cheap we are, but be prepared to explain why. Sorry, I digress there, but the point I just want to come back to is that warehouse space, 3PL warehousing rates are probably higher than they have been for a long, long time. So it's making it very difficult. I did have a note here on space. I've kind of covered that, the availability of warehouse space, the cost of warehouse space. I'm seeing some interesting stuff as well about networks, just to kind of spin that on. I've come across a couple of really weird distribution networks recently where, it makes common sense to have your distribution centres in the centre of demand. So Australia is a tricky country in that regard. So, if you want national distribution, I'll digress here for a second, but in Australia generally, let's say you've got 2 or 3 day delivery lead time, customer service lead time, and you want to have one distribution centre, you're probably going to put it in Eastern Creek in Sydney. That's kind of the centre of mass of national distribution. If you're going to have 2, it's very often Sydney and Melbourne, Melbourne and Brisbane. If you're going to have 3, it's usually 2 on the East Coast, 1 on the West Coast. But I've seen some really strange ones recently where, a national distribution centre way up in, way beyond Brisbane, up in the north. There can be some reasons for that, leveraging lower backhaul rates on transport and things like this, but this was way out of whack. There's some businesses out there that are not quite getting that right. That centre of gravity of demand is still very important in terms of where you're putting your warehouses and stock. So sorry, I've rabbited on there a little bit, but I mean, what are we expecting this year? The whole tariff scenario is going to be interesting. See how that unfolds in the coming months. If you're getting hurt by that already, do comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Very much then about cost containment, particularly around warehousing, inventory, not so much freight. The freight market's very competitive still. It tends to be the focus more on warehousing and transport. Warehousing and inventory. What else are you seeing out there? What are you seeing as some of the major challenge? I'd love to hear. And just before you go, if you're not subscribed, I actually had a look at some analytics the other day on this channel, and quite a low proportion of people who watch these videos are subscribed. So do hit the subscribe button. Why? It helps me with the channel. It helps me understand which videos are more popular. It helps you because every time a new video comes out, you get notified. And it's just generally a good thing all round. There's no sort of commercial benefit for me. This is not a commercial channel. And lastly, if you're new to the channel, do pop down in the description below. I've always been, in the last year or so, I've been putting a list of our most popular videos just down in the description a little bit. So do pop down there and you'll see which ones people have been really engaging with a lot over the last 12 months. But thanks for watching. Love to see your comments, tariffs, cost reduction. What other challenges are you seeing this year? Bye for now.